invisible tax, the architecture of decay.
The metastasis of democracy. Washington in 2006 isn't a city of politicians. It's a city of processing centers. If you think laws are written in the Capitol, you're stuck in 20th century history books. Today, laws are written in offices on K Street by lawyers whose fees exceed the GDP of small countries and handed to members of Congress along with checks for political development. Corruption in America isn't an envelope under the table. That's too vulgar. Real corruption is a law bought on the installment plan. It's a system where a bribe is called a campaign contribution and the betrayal of voters' interests is called a pragmatic compromise.
The super PAC scheme, a legal offshore for power. To understand how high-level corruption works, we need to stop thinking of it as a crime. In the United States of 2026, it's a high-tech financial product. Eleanor Vance calls it the privatization of sovereignty. Here's a detailed breakdown of the mechanics by which a country is transformed into a joint stock company.
The Anatomy of Dark Money, a deep dive. The scheme described is called the triple-layer laundering. It allows billions of dollars to flow into Washington without leaving a digital fingerprint. Isolation level 501 for nonprofit. According to the U.S. tax code, 501 for organizations are social welfare organizations. They are not legally required to disclose their donors. Action. A corporation transfers $50 million into the organization. For the IRS, this is a contribution to a public benefit. This is the point of no return. Once the money enters the 501 for, it becomes anonymous. It is now simply a resource devoid of any provenance. Attack level, Super PAC, Independent Expenditure Only Committee. A Super PAC is a money-burning machine for the sake of power. Unlike regular candidate funds, a Super PAC can accept unlimited amounts of money. The only restriction is that it must not directly coordinate with the candidate. Action. The NGO transfers an anonymous $50 million to the Super PAC. Legal ploy. Eleanor's lawyers ensure that the coordination occurs through public signals. For example, a candidate tweets about their position, and the Super PAC accidentally releases an ad on the same topic an hour later. Execution level, contract network. The Super PAC doesn't just buy ads. It hires media agencies owned by the same people who funded the NGO. Circle. The money returns to the donors' pockets as marketing fees, simultaneously destroying the political opponent.
Protocol of silence.
We were sitting in my office with a congressman whose face was on every billboard in Ohio. He knew that 90% of his campaign was paid for by my organizations. Eleanor, the Environmental Committee, is asking questions about those NGOs, he said, nervously fiddling with his cuff. They want to know who's behind the Clean Future Fund, which spent $20 million to discredit my opponent. I didn't even look up from my Bloomberg terminal. Tell them the truth, Arthur. Concerned citizens are behind the fund. It's their constitutional right to free speech. If the committee wants to argue with the Supreme Court, Let them try. I turned the screen toward him. Look here. Those $20 million didn't just buy you a seat. They bought your silence. The day after tomorrow, you'll introduce an amendment to the infrastructure bill. Just 3 lines that will exempt chemical runoff into the river basin from EPA oversight. It will destroy the state's ecosystem for decades, he whispered. No, Arthur. It will generate $5 billion in net profit for my factories, which will create 200 jobs in your district. And jobs are what will get you re-elected. You're not betraying the state. You're optimizing its survival.
Hidden corruption, astroturfing, and lobbying.
Besides money, there's another tool. Astroturfing. This creates the illusion of popular anger or popular support. We hire bot farms and independent bloggers. They create petitions and write thousands of angry letters to congressmen on behalf of ordinary Ohioans. Demand.
Dinner on the Potomac.
I was sitting in a restaurant where, at the next table, the head of a tech giant was discussing AI regulation with a senator. Senator, we're not asking you to cancel inspections, the technocrat said softly, sipping a $3,000 Chardonnay. We're asking you to make them so difficult that only we can pass them. That's called consumer protection. The senator nodded.
Criminal arbitration. Government contracts.
When the average person hears the word corruption, they imagine wads of cash in a duffel bag. It's ridiculous. In 2026, real money doesn't smell like cocaine and sweat. It smells like government bonds and federal grants. The mechanics of the big grant, how to dissolve billions. The green energy or digital shield scheme operates on the principle of fractal absorption. We take a societal problem, for example, climate change or hacker attacks, and turn it into a bottomless pit for the federal budget. 1. Stage projecting need, the narrative. Before getting 10 billion, we need to create fear. My lobbyists in Washington commission independent studies that prove that without a new cybersecurity system, the US power grid will collapse in 18 months. Result: panic in Congress. An emergency budget is allocated. The curtain rises. 2. Stage the shell layer. We create a consortium. It includes my parent company, a global brand. 3. Innovative startups, empty shells, registered a month before the tender. A contractor with government connections. The tender is tailored to us. The terms are worded in such a way that only a company holding a patent for a technology we ourselves invented can meet them. 3. 2026 cut. The anatomy of $10 billion. A. Facade. $2 billion. Real work. We hire third-tier subcontractors who build server centers from cheap components or install solar panels with lower efficiency than a candle. This is what will show inspectors and CNN reporters. B. Labyrinth. $3 billion. Consulting. These are my favorite soft expenses. The money goes to shell companies in Nevis or Delaware for intellectual analysis and strategic planning. The gist: this is a legal way to cash out. No one can verify the market value of advice worth $500 million. The loyalty loop, $5 billion, stock buyback, the most cynical part. Instead of investing the remaining funds in R&D, the company announces a stock buyback. Why? This artificially inflates the share price. Inside, the politicians who voted for the grant and the officials who oversaw the tender purchased options on these shares in advance through their blind trusts. They're getting rich before our eyes without formally receiving a cent from me. This isn't a bribe. It's market growth.
Inspection of the future.
I stood on the roof of the new data center in Virginia with the Secretary of Digital Transformation. Drones buzzed around us, and graphs of protecting national interests flashed across the screens. "Eleanor," he whispered, squinting against the sun, "the opposition is asking why we spent $10 billion and data processing speed only increased by 2%. I looked at him like a child who'd found an empty gift box. "Mr. Minister, data speed is a metric for system administrators. Our metric is system stability. Those 10 billion have ensured the stability of your ratings and the capitalization of the funds that feed your donors. You didn't buy speed. You bought time." I straightened his tie. "And time is the only resource that can't be printed. Unlike this money."
Philosophy of duty. Seal into the void.
This cycle is perfect because it feeds on national debt. The US prints money, we spend it. Inflation eats away at the savings of the middle class, and our real estate and stock assets only grow. Corruption in infrastructure isn't stealing from the budget, it's privatizing the future. We're taking your grandchildren's taxes and turning them into our yachts today. And the best part? Your grandchildren will pay for it with a smile, because we'll call it saving the planet.